What are the key lessons you learned from having multiple business partners over the last almost 10 years?
Oh man, it's not good. We started hitting major turmoil, different direction, amount of work being put in was not equal, all the usual suspects of a bad partnership. Business partners are tough, and picking the right ones are tough. We were able to sell for a 6x EBITDA. The business didn't fundamentally change. It had maybe a 10% drop in everything, and we were able to get it back at a 1x, more than 90%. It's a big drop.
That's a crazy story. Never heard of anyone who sold to a SPAC and then rebought it. That's wild.
We lead everything with two pillars, content and community, and they kind of go hand in hand. Surface level, we are a subscription box. How we view it is we are a membership. We're a community that's very content driven. It's almost like a hybrid between what a lot of businesses do, and then you look at creators, right? Like the Mr. Beasts of the world that took the approach of content, community, and then dump a brand, even though the brand was here first.
Hey, it's Andrew here, and welcome to the eCommerce Fuel Podcast, the show dedicated to helping 7- and 8-figure brand owners build incredible businesses and amazing lives. And today joining me is John Roman. He's one of the founders of BattlBox.com, which is a subscription site in the survival outdoor camping space. And man, fascinating story. I got introduced to him by a mutual friend. And one of the most unusual stories of how he started the business, but also how he's grown it and also was able to buy back his business at an insanely, I think he sold it for various reasons, which we get into, for 6x multiple of EBITDA, bought it back for 1x multiple. There was partnership drama involved. There was a SPAC involved. It just crazy story, but some pretty impressive lessons came out of it. So we talk about, the lessons he learned from how hard it is to have business partners, operating agreements. We talk about how to advertise restricted products, because he sells and they sell knives and other things, and how that's difficult, but also there's some silver linings there. Also talk about, man, I came into this thinking he had a product-based subscription business. And what I realized is he uses the products really is, I don't know, decoy is the wrong word, but they are not the emphasis of what's allowed him to build a pretty impressive business, which we get into. And it's kind of a mental shift that I think you can apply to a lot of different business models. Anyway, really interesting story. He's a super smart guy. And I hope you enjoy this one, because I did too. And we'll get into it right after this. How'd you get into this? I mean, it's such an interesting niche. Were you in like survival? Did you do outdoor guiding? What's the backstory about how this got started? Because I imagine it has to be some tie into your personal past or interests or something.
I was career building B2B tech sales teams.
So no connection whatsoever.
No connection at all. I was investing in small businesses and writing checks, and not like private equity or VC checks. I'm talking small checks. Typically very, very rarely 5-figure, like sub 5-figure checks. And in this little 6-month window I was doing that, BattlBox was something that hit my radar. So the guy that had come up with the idea, I went to college with, he had found 2 people that were going to be his business partners. I knew both of them. He had come to my Christmas party a month before the idea, and it had pitched me on a different idea, and nothing came from that. So when I heard about BattlBox launching, I wanted to be involved. So I wrote a check, bought some equity. The concept idea was very limited capacity. I'm giving a couple hours a month, board seat, just not a whole lot. And it just quickly grew into something much bigger. And within 12 months after launch, I had to make the decision to leave my career and just jump in this full time.
I was curious, man, like I was digging through your business and looking at the model. And I'm curious, like at first blush, it seems like it would be a challenging model to make work, just because like you've got survival, like you think about like protein powder or something, obviously people are consuming it. And this is something that people have an interest in, but they're not necessarily consuming it per se. And so that seems a little harder on the subscription side. And then also with on a margin basis, right? Like, you know, a lot of the stuff, I'm guessing most of it is you're reselling, because it would just be insane to try to have to come up with your own private line of stuff for everything in a subscription box that varies. So I'm curious, like, obviously you've done a really good job of making that work, but how have you done it with those two headwinds in place?
Yeah, and great call out, because both of those are factual, right? So you look at the number one reason why people leave,
Yeah.
and they're out of space. They don't have anywhere to put the stuff, right? Because the reality is we have some customers that use it all pretty regularly, but even if you're using it, you're not going to go through all this stuff. So yeah, that's a huge piece. So on that front, it's really just making it more about the experience, more about the community, more about the membership, and there being so many additional values outside of just the items in the box, right? And then giving them, on Thursdays we do a buy sell trade, so we'll have thousands of our customers, whether they got the gear on BattlBox or they got it somewhere else, just trading stuff, selling stuff to each other. So that's almost, and that was one of the main reasons we created that day, because people sometimes need some space. So we wanted to kind of facilitate, better us facilitate it than somewhere else or someone else.
What do you mentioned like experiences, or you mentioned benefits of the membership and then also the community. Can you talk about those two a little bit? Because I'm a community guy. I'm kind of biased towards community, and I always think it's interesting to hear how other people work that into their business, especially physically product-based businesses.
Yeah, so we're not a product-based business. I mean, we are, but we aren't, right? We don't view the business in that lens. So we lead everything with two pillars: content and community, and they kind of go hand in hand. So if you look at the amount of content we're putting out, educational, not your traditional like direct to consumer buy. We're not hard selling. We're just educating on the space, whether it's hiking, camping, great outdoors, being prepared, etc. We're touching it all, and that's kind of the approach. The community piece, we started from the beginning. So at launch, we launched. It's not the same version it used to be, but we were using pro boards for like almost like a Reddit style private label bulletin board esque, and it was battleboxforum.com, and that's initially that's what we used, and it was open to everybody. So if you cared about any of the topics, hiking, camping, survival, etc., you could come there and just meet like-minded people, make friends, find people that are local to you, and that's kind of morphed through the years. It pains me to admit that we decided that the best move forward was to put it into a Facebook group, which is still the best solution we found. It bothered me because like there's so many hurdles there, right? You have to be on Facebook. You have to abide by the rules of Facebook and stuff like that. But it's where it currently is. And then the other shift we did is it's paywall. You have to be an active member to have access. You can't just come otherwise.
When you say paywall, do you mean like you have to be a customer, or you actually have to pay monthly?
You have to pay monthly for the BattlBox membership, which includes the box. It includes the access to the community. It includes access. We have something called the Battle Vault. So we have thousands of SKUs that are unavailable to the public, only available to active members, at prices that you're not going to find anywhere. It's us using our buying power to procure these items, and us not treating those items as a profit center.
Interesting. So when you look at like your subscription box, you've got a bunch of different tiers. You've got like basic, intermediate, Tarzan, right. Hunter of the jungle. I'm making this up, but the advanced, expensive type. So do you think about it, like when I think about the business model of eCommerce Fuel, like we do events And events like when they are not, I look at those as a complete investment 100% into the community. And the only, the way we finance the community is through the membership fees. Do you look at the fees that you charge, your monthly fees? Because from an outsider coming in, I was like, okay, well, you're paying for just the products. But do you look at the products as just kind of like, you're not really making money on the products. You're actually just making money. You're maybe selling those at a loss, but you're making money on the subscription fee, which comes with all the other benefits. I mean, I'm guessing you are, because you already said you don't look at yourself as a product-based business. It's just an interesting switch of mental
yeah,
switch.
it's very, I mean, at the end, surface level, we are a subscription box.
Yeah.
How we view and the decisions we make, we are not a subscription box. We are a membership. We're a community that's very content driven. So it's a very, very unusual approach. It's almost like a hybrid between what a lot of businesses do, and then you look at creators, right? Like the Mr. Beasts of the world that took the approach of content, community, and then dump a brand, even though the brand was here first. Just a very different lens.
That's super cool. Is it for customers coming in? And again, I'm thinking about this from having to realign my mental model here. As a customer who's looking at it just from the product business before I signed up, and that was part of the hard part for me thinking about your business model. It was like, well, what am I going to get if I drop $80 a month on, what kind of products, who are they from, et cetera, et cetera. Do most of you, do you have a massive number and percentage of new members coming from word of mouth, or do you from members inside the community, or do you do a lot of work to educate people on all the benefits they get when they sign up?
So it's all of the above. It's the word of mouth referral. We have an aggressive rewards and loyalty program to try to drum up that behavior, and it would certainly comes organically as well. But it's not a number you would be shocked at. It's not a super high number. It's probably in line with most direct to consumer brands, if I had to guess. No, the majority of our, like, if you're looking at attribution, it's advertising that's bringing it to the end of the funnel. We spend a relatively large amount on all the usual suspects, right? Meta, Alphabet, ByteDance. And the funny thing though is there is an educational piece. So while there's some top of funnel that's on social, a lot of it is top of funnel organic through our content. And and this is so wild to think of at the end of the day, we are a direct to consumer business. To look at a direct to consumer e-com business, what's wild to look at is our post-purchase survey question about how long you knew about us before making that first purchase. Mm-hmm. And 40% are greater than 6 months.
Wow.
So it's like, but you got to think too, so you saw the 4 tiers, right? The top tier Pro Plus, it's $170 plus sales tax plus shipping. So it's roughly, depending on your state, call it about $200. 50% of our base is in that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Like our site, some people say, oh, put the one you want to sell as the most popular. No, that really is our most popular. That is the business. So it's interesting because it's a big commitment, right? It's call it $2,500 a year.
Yeah, it's very
not inexpensive.
When you talk about content, what are the things that are working best for you? Because educational content's a huge part of it. Are you doing? I'm sure you're doing a lot of different things, but the 1 or 2 things that are your bread and butter or most effective for you in terms of content type and also platform and channel, what do those look like?
So it's constantly shifting and changing. The current hot thing for us is TikTok. So we went from 0 to, we'll hit 1 million followers on TikTok. I hope this month, probably not this month, probably August, maybe September. We'll hit it this year with certainty. And we went 0 to that. We launched hard on TikTok in the beginning of 2021. And, YouTube's been pretty consistent for us, through time. We do, even when we launched in 2015, part of our initial strategy was we sent out 30 boxes to YouTube reviewers. And still to this day, we send out anywhere between 30 to 50. It's a constantly changing list, just out to YouTubers to talk about our product. So YouTube's been pretty consistent, but as content has changed, when we saw the success on TikTok and YouTube's algorithm all of a sudden was super hungry for short form content, we did a massive resource shift and we started just hammering YouTube shorts. And we went from 50,000 subscribers to a few hundred thousand to I think we're at 700,000 now, in relative short order. So it's a constant piece. When you talk about the type of content, a lot of educational, a lot of situational, talking about scenarios, a lot of product testing. So, we have a massively large funnel of people that want to be in the box. They want their product in the box. And then we have a team that's job is procuring products from the box that are doing outreach as well. So we have this massive funnel of items. And the easiest, most effective content is we get a sample in the mail. Let's film it and look at it and test it. And it's just this constant new content. We don't have to overthink what the strategy is. Content comes in. So there's a lot of product testing. And ultimately, they get to see in real time us testing a product. If it passes, it moves along the very rigorous procurement process to be featured in the box. So the content's all over. We'll do funny stuff sometimes, like definitely like a comedic approach. If you've seen any of our videos, Brandon Curran, he's the face of our brand. He has a great energy, and it's a serious but not too serious kind of demeanor, which works.
Is this the guy with the big beard that was on the BattlGames video? Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely lean into the comedy piece a little bit. We did it with the I don't know if you saw, I posted about it. BattlBox did too. Sunday, President Biden called the ballot box the BattlBox. So we had some fun with the president, telling America that all differences are settled at the BattlBox. Just like fun, comedic, politically neutral approach. So yeah, and then the last piece of content would be, you just hinted to it, BattlGames. So, BattlGames is coming up. Last year we were sending our 100th box. We call our boxes missions. Every month is the new mission. And we were sending out our 100th mission. So a complete surprise and delight. We put 5 golden tickets in 5 boxes randomly. And if they got the golden ticket, we flew them to Texas. We met them out there, hung out with them for the night. In the morning, we all got on a coach bus, 50 of us, went out to rural Texas, and we put each of the 5 contestants, BattlBox members, in a World War II tank, and they shot target, downrange. And if they hit the target, we were going to give them $100,000, and we wanted to give them $100,000. It was if you've ever seen like half court shots or make the hole in one win a car, it was an insurance policy that we had drafted. So we had already paid a premium. So we wanted them to hit it at that point. So it was really, really fun. Unfortunately, nobody hit it.
What is it as a man who loves odds and betting and finance? I have to ask, what does it cost? How much does it cost to buy an insurance policy that'll pay out $100K if somebody hits, a target with a World War II tank? Like, is it like $5,000? Like that seems like such a crazy underwriting thing to even.
Yeah. So it was funny. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall of our insurance sales guy that was selling it in his like weekly sales meetings. They're talking about a hole in one. This guy's talking basketball and he's talking shooting a tank. So lots of phone calls, measurements, trajectory, speed, velocity, size of target. The end result was they proposed 2 options. They said you can have one person fire the tank. If they hit it, we'll give $100K for $8,000. Or you can have all 5 people shoot at the tank. They can't help each other. We have to, after each one shoots, they can't give tips. You have to move them away. They can't have any conversation with people that haven't. For I think it was 17,000. So we opted for that one too. We also had 5 golden tickets. We didn't want to like get them there and say, okay, only one of you are going to get to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, so roughly, close to 20% of the actual prize value.
Did anyone hit it? Oh shoot, that's too bad.
Yeah, which was a couple of them came like so close, but that was a learning lesson. So BattlGames this time around, this event, someone's winning 25K. There's no and ifs or buts about it. Like you have to have a winner. It wasn't fun for nobody to win.
And John, I want to hold up just for a second. We're going to go ahead and play the audio from your BattlGames clip because I want to talk about that here in a minute. But
Okay.
Here's the video.
What's up, Internet? Kern 1776 here with an awesome announcement for you. So in September 2024, just a few months away, we are hosting the very first BattlGames. 10 contestants are going to compete using their survival skills for $25,000 cash. Now at this event, we're going to have tons of cool brands here, survival experts, big-time personalities. They may or may not help us along the way. So how exactly do you become a contestant for the BattlGames? Well, all you got to do is go to battlegames.com, fill out a little bit of information. You can become an eligible contestant for absolutely free. You also are now eligible to potentially win cool outdoor and survival gear. So even if you don't get selected for the BattlGames, you might win $5,000 worth of gear from brands like Fox Knives, My Medic, Puri Bag, and tons of other brands as well. Once we select the 10 contestants, we're gonna fly you guys out here, all expense paid. We're gonna have a great time, and 10 contestants are gonna compete for that 25 grand. It's a win-win. Don't wait, time's ticking. Hopefully I'll see you at the 2024 BattlGame.
So, you're doing these cool battle games. People have a sense for it now. Is the goal to build awareness, create content, and also use it as a lead gen tool? Because I know, like, one of the ways people can potentially try to enter as a contestant is, they have to enter their email address, and there's kind of a contestant box. Are those the 2 goals for it, primarily awareness and lead gen?
The primary goal is surprise and delight. The existing customer base. Just with a community event, there were a lot of learnings from the last event last year, the Mission 100. Because you got to see true like farm to table. So you had BattlBox in the middle, you had the end user consumers here. But on the flip side, we had all of our vendors that are typically in the box pretty normally as sponsors that were there. So it was kind of cool for everybody to get to meet each other. And then obviously, the whole BattlBox team being there too on both sides. So surprise and delight elements big. We went way larger this year with budget, and the way we ensure that we're not losing money, we're playing let's play to break even on the event, is find sponsorships and find sponsors for the event, so that we can not have that at risk. So part of the sponsorship package was this 5K giveaway, where we're putting this all brands, big giveaway. And if you look at the landing page, when you opt into that giveaway, you're opting into all of the sponsors' email address. So it's lead gen for all of them, not necessarily lead gen for us.
Interesting.
For us, it's brand awareness, surprise and delight, and then selfishly, if we can produce a good show with certainty, we're pitching it. So we had a Netflix TV show, a Netflix original series, and it didn't get renewed. So we're technically on the market. So we'll probably pitch this in some capacity to, I don't know if we'll pitch it to Netflix again, but we'll pitch it to Amazon with certainty, and then all the secondary streaming services as well, the Peacocks and the Paramounts.
Are you going to pitch it, and then if it's sold, they come out and film it? Because I think about trying to film this from a production level standpoint. And I mean, the budget for that has got to be six figures just to film something plus, to film something in decent quality over the course of multiple days and edit it and do all that stuff. That's just a ton of work. So how are you thinking about putting this thing together on the ground?
So we won't film it, and they won't film it either. We'll super lucky, super fortunate, very good friend of mine. His name is Jeremy Miller. He has a bunch of he's a filmographer, right? He's a video guy. He's shot some pretty big things, and he has a lot of red cameras and just top notch stuff. And he's doing it. He's hiring a crew of, I think, 5 or 6 guys. Him and I will drive down to the site in the next couple of weeks, take a look at it, and he's doing it at probably less than market rate. And he's a good friend.
That's cool.
And then to be fair though, that's a big chunk of it. That's hard. The editing piece is difficult too. We have a team. We have 3 full-time video editors, and they're going to be ready, and it's go time as soon as we start getting the content.
Yeah. What is your media team? I mean, media and content is such a huge part of what you do. What does your media and content team look like in terms of roles, number of people in those roles, also like where they are in the world, stateside versus other places? I'd love to hear more about that.
Sure. So it's I think it's a rather small team, but the reality is most D2C brands don't have 3 full-time video editors. That's probably the most unusual piece. So on the marketing side, we have 3 full-time video editors. We have 2 graphic artists that do more still, less video. We have our head of marketing that leads marketing, Walter. We have Brandon, who's head of content, so he's face of the brand. We have Austin, who he's been in some of the videos. He's leading BattlGames, but he's our director of content, the social media manager. We have a marketing coordinator. And that's pretty much it. So I guess it is a beefy team. You look at I guess it is a beefy team. In retro, relative to our size and what we do. We're remote. So we're everywhere from Georgia to Tennessee. Curtis on our team, he's in Toronto. We're pretty well spread, and our head video editor is Jay, and his team are all offshore. They're BattlBox team members, but they're in the Philippines.
Okay. Man, and when was that, and kind of what rough level of revenue have you grown to now?
So we really hit. We moved fast, and it was pure timing and luck. We didn't know what we were doing. It was 2015, and we're acquiring customers for $5, and is that good? I don't know. A lot different than today, and we were exclusively advertising on Facebook, and that was it. So in 2015 we launched in February, right before Valentine's Day. I was fully on board and part of the team in the month of February, so about 2 weeks after launch. And in 2015 we finished the year with, I think, $4.5 million in revenue. In 2016, there was clear, in April, there was a clear path, our run rate, we were going to do 8 figures in revenue that year. And that allowed for me to make the transition and not take a wild haircut with sales and comp. So at that point, it made sense. So the 2, I guess there were 4 of us that were partners at the time. So when I came on in April, and then we trued up 2 of the partners, so that they were making the same amount as I had requested. And then as soon as I came on, my first task was buying out the 4th partner, which was fun. Not fun. And so they were quickly down to 3 of us. And yeah, we were off to the races at that point.
Man. And so guessing safe to say probably grown past the, $10 million mark here in 2024. What have you learned about, you mentioned, I don't know if there's still 3 partners in the business. What have you learned about?
Yes, but no, it's a whole nother wild story there.
Yeah. I guess the question is, I got a little bit of a taste for putting the last 3-4 years, the first time ever putting together and, either operational companies or investments with lots of partners. And it's a totally different ballgame, completely different, and so fraught with potential issues. What did you, what are one or two of the key lessons you learned from having multiple business partners over the last, almost 10 years?
Oh man, it's not good. Here's the deal. It's when it's good, it can be great. When it's not good, it's really bad. Fortunately now, knock on wood, I have 2 businesses, 3 of us now. We are not the same 3 as before. And the 3 of us, myself, Patrick, and Richard, we work so well together. We're almost like a 3-way yin yang, and we know each other so well on where my core competency, where Richard's is, where Patrick's is. We help each other, but we empower each other to stay in our proper lanes. There's full trust. It's an amazing experience. We didn't have that, and that caused major issues. It was a nightmare. So when we got to a certain size, we just started running into problems. And man, it's tough. Business partners are tough, and picking the right ones are tough. And it's I will tell you, when you find the right ones though, it's you hold on to them, right? And hopefully they whether they were or they become friends, that makes it great. So yeah, so there were 3 of us. There were 4, then there were 3, and then we started hitting major turmoil, animosity issues with the 3 of us. Different direction, amount of work being put in was not equal. All the usual suspects of a bad partnership. And we got to a point, one of us wanted to be done and retire, and they hadn't really been working much in the last couple of years. So we were like, okay, we don't want to give up and quit. We want to continue. We think we can make this bigger and better and cooler. So we hit a weird spot where we all agreed that a 6x EBITDA was a fair valuation, but there's no world where I'm as a just a guy going to be able to justify a 6x EBITDA. It just doesn't make sense. I'm not some large company. Like, even if we are continuing to grow, like 6-year payback or 5-year payback, if we're growing slightly, is just not reasonable, realistic. So we knew we had to find a buyer or a partner, and we found one. We found one in 2021, and they spoke the language, and they spoke kind of what we were chatting about, and we seemed aligned, and we did the deal. So we got acquired in October 2021 by a SPAC, so publicly traded, out of Toronto. And if you follow the markets at all, SPACs, the story of SPACs in 2021 and 2022 is not a very good story. So, we got acquired. Go ahead.
John, just a quick thing for people who aren't familiar. If you've heard that term, a SPAC it's almost like a shell company that trades publicly and then has money to go out and acquire another company. So it's an easy way for companies to go public. It's also, they also call them blank check companies sometimes. So just a little back info for folks listening.
No, that's well done. That's spot on. So, we went from the acquisition, 2 of us stayed on. One of our partners, Daniel, was able to retire and be done and go live his life. Patrick and I stayed on. A few years prior, we had brought on a gentleman named Richard, and Richard ended up he came on as our CFO, and just a godsend to us, right? We did not know what we were doing on the the financial efficiency side. We were not making wise, smart decisions. He got our house in order, and when we got acquired, he wanted to stay on as well. So even when he came on in a very short order, when we still owned the business, he came on, and he had a seat at the table, right? We trusted him like he was a principal. So he stayed on. The three of us stayed on into the acquisition. Market cap takes us back from 160 million down to just a free fall. I think today it's trading at a market cap of maybe 6 million Canadian. So more than 90%. Like it's a big drop. We saw an opportunity. So they needed cash. There was a debt facility, and that they needed to make payments on, and we came up to an agreement, and it was mutually beneficial. In April of last year, we bought the business back, Richard, Patrick, and myself.
No kidding. That's a crazy story. I've talked to a lot of people. I've never heard of anyone who sold their SPAC and then rebought it. That's wild.
Yeah, it's not, we sold the business. We got paid. It was 60% upfront cash. We did it. And there was obviously the 40% was earn out, so we were sticking around for that. But we had the exit. That was the end of the chapter. And it ended up not being the end of the chapter. It was simple. We weren't done. We're obviously emotionally attached to this brand. We obviously love BattlBox. So, emotions were a part of it, but at a simplistic business view, it was arbitrage. We were able to sell for a 6x EBITDA. The business didn't fundamentally change. It had maybe a 10% drop in everything. And we were able to get it back at a 1x.
Oh, that worked out. Obviously not maybe the route you would have chosen, but financially worked out incredibly well for you.
Oh, it was, we timed it perfectly. You can't time those things. So we sold it the absolute high of direct-to-consumer valuations, and then we bought it arguably the low.
So for people listening who probably aren't going to have luck replicating your pretty incredible story here in terms of the sell high, buy low, right. SPAC roller coaster ride, what would you have changed? What would you go back and tell? Assume that didn't happen. It wasn't financially profitable for you, and you just had all the suffering with that, the payday. What would you go back and tell, John from 10 years ago when you're writing that check, when you're writing that operating agreement, to put in place as safeguards when you have multiple partners? Would it be some kind of opt out for buying, or some kind of how would you change the structure of the agreement to try to prevent some of that pain that you had to endure?
So it's really interesting because when I came on, my first, not full-time as an employee 14 months later, but in the beginning in February, when I wrote the check, I had a small list of items that had to be done in very short order, and I was going to run point on those, and number one was operating agreement. And the operating agreement was actually written how I would write it today. It called this stuff out very, very well, very crystal clear. It was very minority shareholder friendly. So me coming in, not having as much initially as everyone else, it called that out and protected my interests. And it was very, very written fairly. But the reality is, while it was written fairly, while it allowed for us to do what we needed to do, those were launch codes. Those were nuclear missile. It was the button, that you don't want to hit. When you hit it, there's no coming back from it. And there were years of friendship intertwined in this, and nobody was willing to hit the nuke button. And so I wouldn't have changed anything with the operating agreement calling out. It was all done how it should have been done. The reality is, jumping into business when you're friends first, it just adds a layer of trouble and variance, and it's difficult. And it's not that what I'm saying isn't unique, right? I have a friend, she started a business, a subscription business too, with a friend, and 50/50, and they're going through the same thing, right? Like, people change. You don't really know people a specific way until you're doing business together. So I would almost caution, if you're friends first looking at business, I would just really caution it, and have the conversation, the awkward conversation of, hey, we're putting these things in there. Like, we put them in there, but we never talked about them. And talking about them, probably, I'd say they would have been healthy and maybe helped. They wouldn't have. It was so toxic, it wouldn't have mattered. But just having the awkward conversations and calling out, hey, we're putting this in here and this is why. And I think, while it might not have worked out for us, I think it would have still probably a best practice, just to try to hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah, I think the reality, what I'm taking away, is having the language in there is one thing, but being willing to act on it at the cost of the relationship is a totally another thing. So,
and we weren't, and we were not willing to do that.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. How?
Which made it difficult.
Yeah, when you think about like the stuff that you sell, I'm sure so it's a lot of some weapons, some survival stuff. Some stuff I'm sure is not problematic at all. Others, I'm imagining, probably like knives, are difficult to advertise on for platforms. What have you learned about trying to advertise with some of these more restricted product categories? Is it something that you've tried to work around and try to like figured out some workarounds for on the platforms, or do you just pretty much kind of assume that, hey, for that stuff we've got to use organic content and we're not going to be able to use paid ads to magnify and drive traffic for those type of product categories?
It's really difficult. So we talked about our 4 tiers: basic, advanced, pro, plus, which 50% of our base is in. The box is stacked. So the pro plus is everything from the basic, the advanced, and the pro, and one additional item. That additional item, that's 50% of our base, is the knife of the month. Very, very difficult to talk about. So, we've gone through so many iterations. We got kicked off of Facebook for a couple of years. Actually, the end of 2015, we got kicked off for a week, but in 2017, we were kicked off, arguably indefinitely, from advertising with the BattlBox brand, and still the BattlBox brand on Facebook does not advertise. We spun up additional Facebook pages, microsites, just headless before headless was cool, and we literally created a process where new ad account, new Facebook page, new headless landing page. When they hit checkout, it redirected them to the BattlBox Shopify instance. We did that for a while. We had some crazy coding on our site where if there were UTM parameters in the traffic, which all of our Facebook ads had, it would see those parameters and it would just completely change the site. And the site was way different than if you just went to it directly. It would hide stuff, swap out pictures. It basically would make it a Disney rated G for everyone experience. We've gone through so many iterations, and also gotten stuff that just doesn't make sense. Like, we got in trouble on Facebook for an organic picture of a knife, not running an ad. So it's challenging. We run very PG ads, PG landing pages. When we can avoid a knife, we do, and we'll even have fun at it. Like, we'll show it and then put a massive, like, censored for Facebook, like, almost comedic approach towards it.
Sorry to interrupt, but is Facebook's official policy, obviously they're not going to let you show imagery of knives or things like that, but do they go as far to say, like, hey, your company sells knives, therefore you can't do any advertising on Facebook, even if you're just selling, like, let's say you're running an ad for a first aid kit. Is it that draconian, or is it only if you're showing the explicit prohibited item?
So it depends on who you ask. You look at, and our relationship with Meta right now is the best it's ever been. We have actually 2 weeks ago last week we had a call with we've been assigned this special team, and these aren't like the usual, hey, I'm your new Facebook rep. I just graduated and I'm only going to be a rep for 90 days and then you'll meet a new one. No, these are like seasoned vets. Like we were, our ad agency was on there, we were talking about people we both knew in Austin, and like these guys have been there a while. So we're in the best shape we've ever been in with Meta, and we're excited about it. But no, it depends on who you ask, because you look at their largest advertisers, the Walmarts of the world, that with certainty sell weapons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's advertisers that sell guns, but they're not promoting it. So at times it almost feels like a double standard. And if you're not spending, what that magic number is it over $1 million a month to get their attention and make it okay? We've never spent that much. And we haven't gotten close to spending $1 million in a month with them. So I don't know. It's you don't get a very straightforward answer. Technically the guidance is don't advertise it, don't show it. And make it where it's at least 3 clicks away from the landing page. And that's kind of the best practice. So just don't have it there.
3 clicks, that's a lot. I mean, you can get a lot of places with 3 clicks.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. It seems like it also, though, as much of a pain as it is, it also seems like it would create a bit of a moat, where if you're good at organic content, if you're good at creating awareness, if you're good at understanding how those games work, to get into a category, because there's complexity, right? Anytime there's complexity, there's opportunity to be able to figure it out, and it's going to be a moat to keep other people out.
Spot on. And there is a moat. I think that's part of, I'd like to think there's a lot of reasons, content community being one of them too, but the barrier to entry to figure that out is with certainty another one of the reasons why, we have the lion's share of this little niche we're in, market spend. So it's definitely a piece of it.
John, I got a complete non-business related question for you.
Okay.
A big part of the mission that I have, like with eCommerce Fuel, is to help encourage entrepreneurs to be successful at business and at life, right? Like a lot of times people, it's one or the other, but I like the and there. For you, like you've obviously had a ton of success in business, a great exit, a great rebuy at a great rate. You've built something meaningful over a decade. You've done well there. What areas, like, how are you trying to win at life as well? Like what's an area or two that you're super passionate about, that you try to invest time in outside of business, that you think makes for like a really rich life for you?
So I this year, birth of my first child, my son, in January, and
congrats.
I don't have multiple things. If outside of business, that's all I care about. That's my concern. Obviously, everything that goes with that, my wife, my parents, family. Family is the number one thing I care about outside of business.
Man. Well, congrats on your son. He's so he's 6 months old now?
Yeah, 6 months. He born January 24th, so 6 months tomorrow. But he came 2 months early, so he's technically effective 4 months. Yeah, that was 36 days in the NICU was a challenge.
Oh my gosh, that sounds insane.
Super healthy now. You would have never known. He's on the chart for normal size 6-month-old. So.
Oh man, that must have been the most intense month of your life, I'm guessing, probabilistically.
Yeah, came early. I was out of town too.
Man, well, so glad he's healthy and doing great. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's all my focus. If it's not on business, is on family, and I know a lot of people have other things, but so I can handle right now.
It's a good priority. Well, Battle, in terms of, well, before we talk about that, Awesome Pod, you've got a podcast that you've launched with some other folks, and Awesome is ASOM.
Yeah.
So ASOMPOD.com. Can you talk a little bit about that podcast, what it is and what you talk about, and who might want to go check that out after they finish this episode?
We use a development agency, and we'd have a weekly call. So we started recording just our weekly call, and then throw it to a video editor, have them find 3 to 4, couple minute video shorts from it. So Awesome stands for agency, software as a service, operator, and marketer. So it's just 4 unique perspectives. And we talk about e-commerce topics. So everything from AI to planning for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, to scaling, to just about everything business and e-com related. And the last thing about it, the weird, unusual piece, is we film it in person, which is great when I live in Atlanta, Jimmy lives in Texas, Amir lives in Illinois, and Brian lives in Connecticut. So we're geographically really close to each other. So
do you record it? I'm guessing not weekly. Is it every month you record an episode?
So new episode every Thursday. We film in batches. So this Friday, I'm flying up to Connecticut for the day, and we'll do 5 episodes. So we'll sit down. We have a studio for 6 hours, and we'll just knock out, a little over a month.
Man, I think that's such a good, the energy in person is so much better. It's so much easier to talk. Conversations are better. I've thought about that too with this podcast. Like, even if you just invited people on the podcast, had a great studio, flew them in and put them up, even if it's $1,500 a guest, I think the level of rapport that you have, the final discussion output, like, it's all better. And I've thought seriously about trying to do that. And I'm guessing that's the experience you've had as well, doing it live.
Yeah, 100%. It's, so we'll go, we're not at the point where we're having guests yet. And I don't think we'll ever have guests regularly, but we'll at some point have a guest or two. But so we typically come in the night before and we all have dinner. Like, we didn't know each other before this, so we're still kind of getting to know each other, but having, breaking bread and having dinner with the individuals and just getting to know each other on a more personal level. And then it makes the next day and in person just so much, it's tough to replicate.
Yeah. I'm going to keep that in mind. Well, John, thank you so much. If you're listening to this, battlebox.com, that's battle without an E. So BATTLBOX.com. Check it out. Very cool business. And like we talked about earlier, it's such an interesting model where it is a physical products business, but not really. It's really a membership. It's really content driven, and the products just kind of help make it all possible. But such a cool model you've built. Congrats on the success. Congrats on the timing. Glad you had some partnership issues that actually ended up helping out, benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
And man, loved hearing about what you've done and built. So thanks for coming on and sharing. This has been a lot of fun.
Andrew, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.